I was going to use my amplifier that's dumped at the back, but there's no power. So I'm having to use my mobile. It is not my notes. So that's what it's here for, to provide a little piece of music eventually. It's very good. It doesn't go off early. Right. Chair. Fellow members of Swindon Club. There's no guests. Well, never mind. Didn't turn up, but another time. Soaps. The Archers. Now come on, the Archers. You either like it, love it, or loathe it. Hands up, please. Who likes it? Who loves it? Who loathes it? What a bunch. That's unbelievable. Well, anyway, right, since you're so neutral...
What is the answer?
Yeah. No idea what you're talking about.
This speech is all about it. You will find out about it, and at the end, I hope you'll see why it is still relevant. Let's go back to history. Where did soap start from? 1930s, America. Where else? The Americans have a slight problem. They don't get anything for free, so their radio stations have to pay for themselves. How did they pay? They created these very short, sort of 15-minute dramas, sponsored by manufacturers. And guess which manufacturer was sponsoring the most? Any idea?
Look.
Well, yeah, but soap manufacturers. That's why they're called soap operas. Yeah, Pears, Procter & Gamble, all those sorts of people. They sponsor the radio programmes. That's how the radio stations made their money. What did we do in the UK? Well, you won't know this. The very first soap in the UK, well, sorry, I can't say in the UK. The very first soap produced by the BBC was sent on shortwave to North America in 1941 to tell everybody we were still there fighting on our own, we're not going to give up. So this was going on. No one in the UK knew anything about it, but the Americans heard us. The first real soap, some of you may know. Yeah, some of you are old enough. Mrs. Dale's Diary, 1948. No, the oldest. Well, Mrs. Dale's Diary was wonderful for housewives because it was aimed at the housewives in the afternoons, 2 o'clock, finished all their chores, sit down with a cup of tea, listen to Mrs. Dale. Catchphrase, I'm very worried about Jim. That was her husband, the doctor. I'm very worried about Jim. This soap was so awful. It was okay for the housewives, but anyone who had intelligence were thinking, oh, a reaction from the last. They didn't. They were very much middle class, respectable and comfortable. That's all it was. So the BBC thought, we've got to do better than this. We can't carry on having all this silly stuff. Paul Temple, Dick Barton, Journey into Space. Wonderful stuff. But it's not the real world. Mrs. Dale's Diary, that wasn't the real world, that was the sort of posh end. Let's find something we can put together that's the real world. And that's what they did. They went off and commissioned 5 episodes, pilot episodes of The Archers. Midland BBC. BBC, being a tight-fisted bunch as they always have been, refused to do any new music. So their Archers theme, which you hear now is actually a new one, but then it was an old one. The BBC refused to pay 250 quid to have a new one. Cheapskates. Anyway, they came up with this wonderful idea, the Archers. They are the family, the number 1 family in Ambridge. Farmers. Real people. The story, it was an everyday story about country folk. Brilliant idea, Minister of Agriculture. Now they thought, hello, we have to look at this because they'd had a bad time. Minister of Ag were trying to tell everybody, look, you've got to do this to increase the yields. You've got to do this to get your livestock working. We need the food. We need all of this. Listen, what did they do? Professor comes in, sits with a microphone. My name is Professor Brown Chumley. Today I'm going to tell you about fixing the nitrogen in your soil. This is done by crop rotation. Click. Everybody switches off. Deadly dull, depressing. How on earth did they think people were going to take any notice of this rubbish? Might be true, but God, what a way to present it. BBC, Ministry of Ag, together say, we can do better. We've got storylines that we could put in to make the Archers really interesting. It will be educative, it will be informative, and it will be entertaining. That's the three things the BBC like. What happens? In the Archers, same scenario, Jethro Larkin, Walter Gabriel, farmhands, sitting in the bull in a standard pub, pints of Shires knocking them back. Jethro says, "Here, Walter, you read that there pamphlet what the Ministry of Ag sent out?" "Well, me old pal, me old beauty, I read it and I reckon they got summat. Because up in Hollow Tree, we've been putting taters in for the last 4 years and we hardly getting any this year. And it says it there, we're taking all the goodness out. Got to put some other stuff back in. So wheat, barley, malt barley, and then taters, and the crops will be okay. I'm going to see Mr. Archer about this tomorrow morning." That is how you get your message across. It's in the soap, you listen, you recognise the characters, you empathise with the characters, and if you're a farm worker or a farmer, it really does strike a chord, because they went into doing mastitis, brucellosis, sheep dipping, fly strike, you name it. Whatever you want to do about farming, it was all in there. But you can't just do farming. They did the 5 episodes. 1951, it became a national programme. It's no longer BBC Midlands, it's now on the light service, the whole of the BBC. Switched to the home service a bit later on because it was a serious programme, not sort of fluffy stuff, it was serious, so into the home service. The programme goes out, lots of stories, what a massive response from the people. They thought this was really something. BBC were trying to think, what else can we do with this? They carried out one of the biggest coups you have ever seen anywhere in the UK on radio. It was just tremendous. And they lied. They said they knew nothing about it. We didn't do that. No. But it happened. 21st of September 1955. A date to remember. Archers is going out, 7 o'clock. Gets near the 7:15. I'm thinking, oh, it's finishing now. There's a barn on fire and a horse whinnying and Phil shouting, "Grace, don't go in there! Grace, come out!" So all finished. So what happens? Everybody is saying, is she going to die? Is she going to live? Polarised. One vote said, she's going to die. I mean, they've got too many characters, they've got to get rid of one. The other lot are saying, no, Grace is such an important character. She's never going to die. No. Well, 20 seconds. Any ideas how many people were listening? Any ideas? No?
20 million.
You've been reading my notes. 20 million people tuned into that programme to find out what was happening to Grace Archer. She died in Phil's arms on the way to the hospital. 48 hours the switchboard was jammed at the BBC. Vans were turning up with flowers and cards and wreaths. Crazy. Why? Because that night ITV started. They lost their audience, didn't they? They opened their news station, BBC had nicked it all. Oh, we never did that. It was a pure coincidence. But looking further on now, because we don't have a lot of time in this, because it's so much. The thing that's important is that the themes, the stories that go through the Archers are very, very important and relevant. These stories, like Helen Archer with emotional and mental cruelty. Nick Grundy dying of sepsis. Do you know 44,000 people in this country die a year? 6 million in the world because we don't know about sepsis. That storyline gave it. And of course, that means that I personally think they are wonderful. And if this works, as Walter Gabriel says, keep on listening, my pals, my old beauties. That is the programme you should stick to. It would do a lot better if they did that.